All right. Ah, so good to be here. Hello, everyone. Let me just make sure everything is set up correctly. I think it is. Welcome. We are going live today for the new moon, which is in Sagittarius. And it's actually, we're right live on the day of the new moon. The new moon happens at 6:31 Eastern time, and so we're moving right up to the new moon right now, and we're gonna do a really powerful download for the goddess report. I have a whole bunch of things to catch you up on. Let me just take a look down. Some things changed on YouTube, and I wanna make sure that maybe had the wrong time zone listed. Oh, email said 3 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, yeah. Well, I meant that we're live today at 3 p.m. Eastern time, but the actual new moon falls right at 6:31 p.m. Eastern time today. So we're a couple of 3 hours out from the actual new moon. So, okay, it looks like everything's good. It's so good to be here. December. It's so hard to believe. Oh, wow. It's been a long time. It's been 3 months, but it feels like a long time. A lot has changed. A lot has changed in our world in just 3 months, and so the world is really on fire right now. There's so much happening, and we will dive into it. Today, where I live, it's such a beautiful day, and so the video is titled "The Descent of Darkness." And so it's kind of funny because this is really one of the most beautiful days and it's really bright and sunny and there's all these birds flying out of my balcony. But we are going to talk about the reality on the planet, but that's just to show that always, always, even, Mother Nature and the goddess is always present and always present through the heart. And in fact, last night I had one of the most profound miracles come in when I work on the etheric plane, and that's why sometimes I'm gone for a while. I'll take big pieces of time when I'm required to for the work I do to work on the etheric level and integrate some of the things that are happening in this world. And so for the past couple months, there's been a lot of turmoil and a lot of trauma. We're in a spiritual crisis and a moral crisis, but also there's so much pain and suffering and confusion. And so part of what I've been doing for the past 2 years, I was given an assignment to really look into the deep origins of many different things. And I've really just about come to the completion of that task and discovered things I mean, really brought everything together, but also it's the integration of the truth of what's really happening and how we are using it to prepare for all the further change that's coming because 2024 is coming and it's going to be a big year. So I will say hi to everyone. Then I'm going to make the announcements about what's coming here. Just quick little announcements, but there's a lot happening at Art of the Feminine in the next 2 months, and there's some big dates I want to tell you about. But I'm just going to take a moment and say hello and all right. Sophia, nice to see you. Trish, nice to see you. Tina, so great to see you. Oh my gosh, Trish O'Connor, Neil. Beautiful. And Patricia, I saw you right away. Come on. And it's really great to see you. Let me know where you're all tuning in from. I kind of have an idea, but it's good to have a little reminder of where everyone's tuning in from. And yay. So good. Okay. So what I want to say, I want to start with letting you know that today is the 12th, December 12th. Next week, on December 19th, 1 week from today, we'll be gathering here for the solstice live stream. And so nice to see you, Lotus. When we will be gathering for solstice, we do a really deep solstice, winter solstice live stream, December solstice every year on the 19th, which is also the 11-year anniversary of the Art of the Feminine podcast, which launched, oh wow, it launched on 2012 December 19th, right at solstice, right at that big portal. That's when I started this live stream, and it became the Art of the Feminine podcast. So we're live streaming next week on that anniversary, which is a potent date, and the 19th is always it really potent. And I have a really big announcement I'll be making that day. A really special announcement for this work and for what is coming in the future. And so I really hope you can join me live on YouTube. It's an open public event, and I hope to see you to celebrate the solstice. Okay, and then after that, on New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2023, we will do our annual archetypes of 2024. So as the year turns, we enter a new archetype, and the archetypal coding that we're going to be working with is so heightened for what is happening on this planet right now, and really synchronized with what I have birthing and what's coming into the world and what is specifically coded to this platform. And so that's a really special one. So make sure to be here on December 19th. And then again, it's New Year's Eve too, which falls on a Sunday. And I think that's going to be really fun. I think I'm going to do it a little bit earlier. I'm thinking noon Eastern time. So it'll be 9 a.m. In LA. And it's going to be really special. Also, in January, as we enter the beginning of the year, and I think actually a lot of you have already signed up for this. I'm doing something really special that I've never done. And I actually announced it on Black Friday, which I've also I've never done any kind of like ad or like special here. I just haven't run this platform in that way, and maybe I will in the future more. It is my business, but at the same time, it's so deep and so spiritual. I usually don't get around to that. But on Black Friday, I put out the Light Body Tantra offer, and I'm going to re-offer that again for a week before Christmas. But this is why it's so special. I'm re-recording a 7-week course, which is something I've never done before. Not quite like this. Light Body Tantra was the culmination of 17 years of work at the time that we gathered in August 2016. Light Body Tantra is the crown jewel. I call it's the holy of holies in the Light Body Woman curriculum. It's a 7-week course the way it's usually taught, but because I'm running the Divine Feminine Wisdom School right now, which is a year-long professional immersion into all of the curriculum that I teach here. That particular course is housed in the school, but the audio is not very high quality. At the time that we did that course, I was at the peak in one of my own spiritual initiations, and it corresponded to the very moment that I was putting to words the heightened teachings of this body of work, which are profound. And so I need to record it. It was an audio course back then, though. I'm recording it as a video course, but the way I'm doing it, and this is what makes it kind of special, is that instead of running it for 7 weeks, we're meeting every day for 7 days, and it's going to be compacted. All of the material will be taught in a 1-week period. So we'll meet every single day, 3 p.m. I'm thinking 3 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll meet for like around 2.5 hours, probably for 7 days. And so it really condenses it if you're not able to be live with us at 3 p.m. And I might mix up the time because we have people all over the globe taking part. And so on the Saturday and Sunday, I might adjust the time so we can get people live that haven't had the chance to be live. But if you're not able to participate live, you are enrolled in a 3-month container where you will have access to all the recordings, and you can watch them as many times as you want, over and over and over, for 3 months. So even if you can't be there live, it's an opportunity that I've actually never done here. And it's the price that's really special too. So Let me see. Okay, first of all, if there's people enrolled right now in my school, which is the Divine Feminine Wisdom School. It's a year-long professional immersion into the full body of work here. If you are enrolled in that, and I've told some of you, but if you're enrolled with me for the year-long program, you're automatically enrolled when we do something like this. So you'll be automatically enrolled. Um, so I'm going to put a link underneath. The links are on Instagram in the link tree, and there'll be a link in the description box. I'm just thinking so I don't forget everything. This is the special. The special I ran on Black Friday. I'm going to run again for this week, just up until December 24th for Christmas, because I didn't get a chance to come on. And by the way, this is about sexuality and it's everything that we're talking about today in the Goddess Report. That's why I really wanted to let you know about this. Everything that's in Light Body Tantra, we're going to also roll over into the Goddess Report today. The course was normally and I usually don't put numbers out here like this, but that course originally in 2016 was 1100 and the Black Friday price was 333. And I am going to open it up again from today until December 24th because I have not been on YouTube and I haven't really announced it to anybody. So the link will be underneath. And again, also, I just spoke with Lindsay, who's running Divine Feminine Wisdom School. She does all the calls and all the enrollment. Just to let you know, this is the last announcement. 2024, we're enrolling for a year-long program, and I will have the link underneath if you want to do like a 15-minute call. Sometimes they go a little longer, but where she will tell you all about that curriculum and the price and just it's a much bigger commitment. It's a school. It's a genuine authentic school and it's really at the master degree level. This is high quality, meticulous, layer upon layer upon layer wisdom that can be it's esoteric codes, but it has a scholarly component to it too. So it's genuine, authentic knowledge with a capital K. And so I think that's it. Just so you know though that the links that are underneath they're the older links. So it says Black Friday special. You can go ahead and if you want to purchase it, you can use the Black Friday special. Use that link. It will give you that price and it will enroll you and you'll get a confirmation email to make sure you're in. And the older link to sign up for a call for Divine Feminine Wisdom School also is underneath. So thank you for taking all of that in. And I'm so honored to welcome you to the Goddess Report. The Goddess Report is an oracle, a true living oracle. We started as the Art of the Feminine podcast, and now, starting at COVID, during the pandemic, there was a received instruction to turn it to the Goddess Report and have it be work with divine feminine astrology I teach divine feminine astrology, by the way. It's in both schools, and the level of correspondences and work that we work with here is so very deep. And so that we work deep in the Akashic records. All of my work and training has been for years in the Akashic records and working on also at the etheric level. So it's really, really when this something like this comes in, it's coming from a really genuine and authentic connection that's of the heart and that's coming through the path of the initiate that's truly, truly guided. And it is not, the words that are said lightly. So I just wanted to say that if you're tuning into the Goddess Report for the first time in a while. All right, we're going to get started. I'm just going to take a peek down. Okay, and take one sip here. Blessings to you. Neil said blessings to you, Shannon. Blessings to you. Wanted to grab it, but couldn't. Oh, well, guess what? It's back up. So that same offer, it's on right now. It's under the link. I'm telling you, because I usually do 3-month mentorships, but I'm finished with those now too. What you are going to be be introduced to and experience. It's all the old content, all of the original content of that course, but it's also all it's going to be a live stream. So there's also I can't even begin to tell you what is going to be in that, and it's aligned with everything that's happening in January, and there's a lot more coming. So make sure if you want to study and do genuine, like a really deep, you know, the coursework that also includes meditation, activation, archetypal codes that we work with here. It's really the and for just basically nothing. It's a good one for sure. It's the holy of holies. It's the crown jewel, and I don't say that lightly. All right, so here we go. Sagittarius. Sagittarius is where we meet our mother. This is Divine Feminine Astrology, the Goddess Report. Sagittarius is where we meet our mother. In the sign of Sagittarius is housed the galactic center at 27 degrees, the galactic core. Now, in Divine Feminine Astrology, we call a big part of our work the galactic core codes. The galactic center is found, the mother's womb in Sagittarius. So we say Sagittarius is where we meet our mother. We have a saying in Light Body Woman, I'm busy about my mother's business. I'm busy about my mother's business. I'm about my mother's business. I'm about the business of the goddess. Just like in the scriptures, it says busy about my father's business. In Light Body Woman, we say we're busy about our mother's business. It's a huge code. So, you know what? I forgot to tell you, I had written down, I'm going to say a couple things because you'll see why it ties in to the Goddess Report. I forgot to tell you what's in Light Body Tantra. I got so excited telling you about it. Just going to tell you a couple things. So Light Body Tantra is the highest royal path of healing sexuality. The whole platform, my whole body of work is built on what we call the sexual dragon god. It's the sexual dragon force, and we call it the solar feminine dragon goddess, which I post about. I teach a lot about behind the scenes, and I've been posting about it a little bit. But I put the serpent dragon of light, the solar feminine Christ force. This is the whole work that we're doing here. And Light Body Tantra is we work on the astral level, and we work with the sacred union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I'm trying to think what else I want to say. I'm going to be making a post on Instagram. I won't go much deeper. I'm just going to say that we hold deep wisdom around what we call the feminine auric field and the aura of woman, but it's really the aura of all of us, the aura of the soul. And we work with the profound understanding of the goddess force. Why it's so important on our planet at this time will come out in the Goddess Report today. And Sagittarius is the sexual energy. Sagittarius is the sign of alchemy, of temperance, of art. It is the understanding of how we work with the light and the dark in the alchemical container, which is our aura. The Hebrew letter Samech it's one of the only two letters that is fully enclosed like a womb. The other letter is the mother letter Mem. And so this letter represents the support of God, the support of the universe, the support of the cosmic to do this alchemy. And this corresponds to the galactic center, which is the womb held in Sagittarius. Now, the galactic center also is connected to Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, and Scorpio. And so we'll be working with Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus we work with, all the work I do with Ophiuchus is behind the scenes. I've talked a little bit about it in some videos, but we work with a deep, deep, it's an original stream around Ophiuchus, and it was specific to this work here. Um, but connect that sign and the ruling planetary body in consciousness is Chiron. So the letter Samekh represents the alchemy of the womb. And that's why during solstice, we always do a radiant darkness or luminous darkness. And we'll be doing that next week, where we talk about the mysteries of the womb. These are the mysteries of light body woman and light body Tantra. And that understanding of working with polarity integration, understanding both light and dark. And so we have our own body of work here, but this is Sagittarius. And it's what we call in Light Body Woman the great art. The great art is the name for a big part of the work we do that's housed in the school, because it's the alchemical art, the platform art of the feminine, art of the feminine. I have a Facebook page, Art of the Feminine, and Instagram, Art of the Feminine, is named after this work. When we say Art of the Feminine, it corresponds to visionary art as well as alchemy. And so that is the great art of the feminine to be found. Sagittarius holds keys to this. And Sagittarius is opposite the sign of Gemini, the lovers, the Hebrew letter Zayin. And so that tells you that on this axis, we're working with deep, deep tantric codes. This is the work of light body Tantra. This is the work of light body woman. And so it's been evolved for so long and through so many initiations that this work is the healing of the human race right now. What we're traveling through, the descent of darkness on our planet, is so great. It's not a joke what's happening in the field. The descent of this deep, cloudy, murky consciousness that is sabotaging the higher mind and saturating the heart in this technological field, this hyper technological field, this hyper sexualized field. It's destroying the heart and almost like muting or hijacking the mind. What we're seeing happening with war on this planet, we talked a lot about it for the first many videos in 2023. We did a lot. The North Node is in Aries, the sign of Mars. So if you followed my work for a long time, you know that. I feel like I need a little energy refresh. You know that I have taught for years about the fallen Mars force. The fallen Mars force. We have work, and I have several videos about the return of the noble masculine or the divine masculine. The Mars force is connected to, and this is specific to this work here, war and eros. So war, sex and war. And when the goddess fell, she was submerged into this field where her energy could only be used in that way, either by the carnal or unconsciously manipulated, distorted, and used for war games and used for the destruction of the human heart. Now, there's that saying, all is fair in love and war. All is fair in love and war. So what that means is that the goddess energy is up for grabs, and there are no boundaries and no rules, and that is the world we're living in. Samekh, the Hebrew letter Samekh, represents the container, the boundary, the womb. And in this field right now, it's an anything goes. Over the years, we've talked a lot about the anything goes sexual current and how that was what was coming down the pipeline. And we're really here now, but I'm shown we're really only in the beginning of it. So I just want to say that this is what I was shown. I had the most amazing, I almost said insane, but amazing meditation last night that was filled with so much light. And by light, I mean the spiritual light and the spiritual intelligence really descending in on even deeper levels. The energies that I work in the etheric plane were really making their way into the material world more to be here for this time, that the home is in the heart. Right now, you have to be able to claim your home in your heart. With everything happening in the Middle East, which is by the way, we'll just take a moment to say we send our blessings. May the blessings of this new moon be with all the innocent life that has been lost, and the pain and suffering, which is evil. What is happening right now in our world, only one word can describe it. It's evil. And I don't say that word lightly either. And I say that with a lot of love, but it's everywhere. And I've had some deep conversations with some people. I have contacts, and especially even in the Middle East, on both sides of what's happening, and have had deep, that's part of the integration work I do, conversations with people, because we're working it through the heart and giving it new energy and blessing it and anchoring this. We're anchoring this energy onto the planet so that we can rewrite the frequency of love and war, as love and creativity, as heightened sexuality, which is what light body tantra is all about. And it's, by the way, light body tantra isn't only about sexual union between two people, and I say that in the write up. It's also about the creative force, and it's how you maintain your aura, how you maintain your field. This is very deep work around this, and this is what's needed right now. So right now, I was crying for like an hour last night as this was coming in. Find your heart and make it your home. And we'll talk more about it at solstice. Know your sweet spot. Know love. Know where you have unconditional love. Whoever you're mad at, and especially if you're triggered by what's happening with war right now, do your best to work it out. Have your aggression. Do what you need to do, but then really work to understand that humanity is in this together, and the forces that are manipulating the Aries energy, the Mars energy, are small. They're able to work through the fourth dimension, the second dimension, and harness energies, but only and also manipulate our attention and our focus, because Aries is about our focus. It's about how Aries is the sun in the mind. It's about how we are able to hold focus on what we choose. It's our sovereignty, how we take our creative force, our sexual dragon force, our sexual creative energy, our love, the power of our heart, and we put it on what we choose. We direct it to something of our mission and our purpose. We're not just letting it be used. This is the energy of bringing your heart and your consciousness into your home. Aries is very connected to the heart too, through the number 4, which is the sign Cancer, which is the sign of the mother as the moon and the lunar feminine. So just let's tune in with I am in the 7 directions, and then I'll read the goddess report. Let me see if there's anything else in this part of this. Okay. We work with the esoteric heart as well in coming up, and it's really deep. This is the only place, this is your only island of truth, and it's the only goal as a soul is to get to this place, because then you walk around like a secret agent, and you know you're being, you can, that's where you receive the inspiration. That's where you begin to start to tune into the Akashic level and the etheric level. And that's when the masters and the hierarchies can work with you. Your vessel can then be used in service of the greater plan that's unfolding on this planet right now. I put override the archontic frequency, the reconciliation of spirit and matter. That's also the sign of Sagittarius. We can see the forces more than ever. Oh, wow. So the shadow forces are overshadowing humans right now. So you can see right now what's happening. There's so much happening in media, in politics. It's it's really it's far the truth is far beyond all of it. Those playing on the playing field are all compromised. And so all of them we can love and support, but it's best to withdraw and be a creative artist right now. Be the art of the feminine on this planet. She also put cultural norms are part of a healthy society. Cultural norms are part of a healthy society. They provide a boundary. They prevent chaos. They create stability and trust where we can trust each other. They create a container for alchemy, samech. Now, what's happening right now is that those cultural norms are being disintegrated and dismantled. It's part of rebuilding what's coming, but there's also some sinister energy. There's a lot of sinister energy around that. So here we go. Majestical, the highest, most majestical and royal lineage of the sexual dragon force is held in the light body tantra wisdom teachings. That was just written on a random paper, but it's the truth. It carries the new dispensation. It's for this new epoch that we're coming into. We call it the goddess epoch or the divine feminine reset. We've done quite a few videos on that, but that's what's contained in it. So here we go. All right. All right. This is the goddess report. Now I have to be honest with you about this. I wrote this. I had planned on doing this video 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't break away from my work. I could literally, the energetic field I was working in, I wasn't able to at that time come in. So that's when I wrote it. When I write it, it's a quick channel and it just pours through. I haven't reread it. And so I'm hoping everything is okay because I think it's pretty intense. But here we go. The spiritual darkness of the human race, the descent of darkness in humanity. This is the period that we are in right now. It's the beginning where everything gets more confusing, things start happening. And again, this is not to be all negative and to mean, especially with this beautiful day out, to mean that we cannot tune in to the higher frequency and the etheric level and awaken that here. But there's a lot happening, and a lot of people are overwhelmed and traumatized by the frequencies being put out and the programming putting out right now. The crisis that we face in the world today is a spiritual crisis. It cannot be fought on the level of the head or patriarchal politics. Now, the level of the head, remember, is Aries. Aries is the head. And so right now, the North Node is in the head. And so we're being pulled into our head. And the fourth dimension is connected to the underbelly of the heart. It's the lower astral and the lower heart chamber. That energy of Aries is siphoned into the feminine and hijacking feminine creative energy in the lower astral and then in the heart. And so missing in between is the higher is the true heart, the balanced heart, the heart where the higher astral plane that is working with the codes of equilibrium and harmony, that is blocked. Because when you have equilibrium and harmony, you have wisdom and you have vision and you have the power of the word, which is directed from a sound current that's being run through a truly activated vehicle of consciousness. We all have moments of this, but this is a very real state. And what is happening right now is blocking that state. And so we have a lot of it's funny, I can't even get through one line without all the different streams opening. Social media, celebrity, news media, all of that is coming at us hard and fast constantly. So you want to really protect and discriminate. That's Gemini. On the opposite of Sagittarius is Gemini, discrimination, discernment, the sword, Zayin. You discriminate what you take in to your womb, what comes in for alchemy. I've caught this happening to myself too, and I just want to say this: compassion. So when most people that are drawn to this work are really compassionate, it's just there's no denying that. And Christ-like, meaning there's forgiveness, compassion, service, loving thy neighbor as thyself. That's common for people who gather here. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, we also have to have power. We did a lot of work with light body alpha and the alpha feminine last spring, which is we did that for Aries, the alpha feminine heart. We also have to have wisdom to have clear discernment and seeing. I want to tell you something that I just experienced on Instagram recently. I think it was Instagram. Somebody sent it to me, and it was one of those illusions, optical illusions. This There's a lot of optical illusions. These when you do one of those like optical illusion puzzles, and you see how easily it is to make you see something that isn't there, or to distort what you're seeing into something totally different, or to have this situation where half the people see it one way and half the people see it the other way. That serves the patriarchal forces. When we have the archetype erupting in the Middle East right now is an ancient archetype that describes exactly this: people acting from their truth, seeing something differently, and that being used, that being exploited. Because we know there's sciences, we in psychology, we know now. We have all that data. We know how to do that. It's not very hard. It's used all the time now in film and on social media and in advertising. But that's something that we need to understand. It's happening all around us. Just one moment. That is why we need vision, and that is why you want to make sure your compassion is not weaponized against you, so that you're always in union. We talked about prayer the last time I was here. Prayer, the Divine Mother had said at that time when I work with her, that is the ultimate. Learn how to pray. And we talked about prayer being the intercourse of the mind and the heart, that when we pray, we open the union codes and we come into harmony, and we become a channel for the Holy Spirit and the Christ force. We begin to hear. Our senses are wrapped in this envelope in the lower planes, but our higher hearing, our higher seeing, our obvious higher speaking, which is the divine logos, the Sophia logos, and our divine feeling and our comprehension, our vision. That's a different state than the average 3D. Those are our heightened superpowers. And so when we pray, notice when you pray how you feel different, or when you meditate. On meditation and prayer, there's deep meditation of listening, emerging with the self. But prayer also, when you know how to pray, whether it's through chanting, whether it's through musical codes, whether it's through holding an archetype, you feel a major shift happen, and all of a sudden, none of the programming works. It flips, it changes. You see everything different, and you're guided in a different way. So the corruption that I'm back to the goddess report that has taken over, the corruption that has taken over is beyond the scope that most human beings can imagine. We are in a crisis of spiritual, moral, and sexual frequency. The misuse of the most powerful force in the universe is off the charts. The spiritual ignorance of the human race is higher than it has ever been. The reason for that is because a huge, there's also this stream of people awakening for sure, but in the masses, with the takeover of technology, many people have moved away from their spiritual core, whether it's religion, whether it's true meditation. And so when I've looked at many studies, the amount of people who have zero connection to the God force, the Christ force, the goddess, spirit, the self is really high right now. In fact, even in the US where I live, people used to have, and obviously there's lots of problems in the religions, and I know because I've lived through them and lived in these, I've lived in the spaces, and so I understand it very deeply. At the same time, the whole population used to be a lot more guided by moral principles, and obviously some of those moral principles need to evolve and be more inclusive, and we accept that fully here. Even so, the sexual force, even with the new codes, the sexual force is still meant to be honored and understood. It doesn't mean that when we come into this world, we're meant to experience. So I want to be clear also that we're meant to learn about it through our innocence, through our compassion, through love, through the goddess, through falling in love when we're young, when we're a little bit older, and all through different stages, and having that experience of what happens when I merge. What happens when I merge my body with another? What happens when I merge my consciousness with platforms that are pushing, some of the lower frequencies of this? What happens when I take it in? Do I feel happy and connected and empowered and sovereign? Or do I begin to feel depressed, isolated, cut off, addicted, and, you know, um, feeling as if I'm more of a consumer? We're meant to learn that. And so there's no judgment at all. But the direction we're going in our ascension, in our awakening, is understanding that that's power. It's like a flame or a sword. It's the sword. And how we use it is everything. This is 100% like body tantra. That we only become spiritually mature only when we understand this force that has been either suppressed or erased or hidden or stolen out of many of the teachings, on the patriarchal platforms. And I don't say that as a dig, but meaning the true understanding, and it has especially hurt the feminine. And so in this era, there's no bypassing of that. It's 100% part of being able to be trusted with the higher forces. The spiritual feminine forces will find home in us when we show that we have some discipline, some discernment, some balance, some vision, some deep love and compassion and forgiveness, creativity, the understanding of beauty. In the Divine Feminine Wisdom School, I just did a lecture on the feminine esoteric codes of beauty, which is huge because beauty is my container, what I carry. And that's why we call it the esoteric feminine codes. And it's part of the work we do in the Divine Feminine Wisdom School, that I am beautiful, by the standards of true vision when I embody these frequencies. The world has a more carnal level of beauty. It's still very, very valuable. Everybody recognizes beauty. Like it's a feeling. There's certain kinds of beauty in the physical body, and some of it can be related to youth. Some of it is related to just genetic looks that are attractive to human beings. Some of it's related to synastry. There's the most beautiful bird right outside my window right now, just sitting there looking. And most of us have an idea of wanting inner beauty and outer beauty. That's pretty common for people who are not super shallow. Now, social media blasts us with the more shallow version because it uses the feminine to sell. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a place for that. But when it's digging deep and traumatizing, a lot of people right now are traumatized on their own beauty. What I've discovered in my work is the amount of I've especially worked with women, but it's all people who do not feel beautiful or good enough, especially in the young, beautiful teenagers that don't feel beautiful by the standards they see, the oversaturation of celebrityism and just the technology. And in fact, there are staggering numbers between the ages of 18 and 25 who, interesting, I'm getting a notice from YouTube, which I've never seen before, saying that they're going to run an ad. I don't know what that means. So if you see an ad, it's coming through YouTube. But there's staggering numbers of people, maybe it's because of what I'm talking about, that don't want to be alive anymore. We'll use those words. In 18 to 25-year-olds, I think it was 1 in 4, and I don't mean to say it casually, but I believe it was 1 in 4 had those thoughts seriously within the past month. It was a huge study, and you can find these studies for yourself. They're everywhere. But beauty, spiritual beauty, the mythical beauty, the true art with a capital A, the great art, involves our heart, and it involves the frequency we walk with in our own soul. I often will say the divine feminine frequency. That's part of how we use our sexual energy as well, because when you carry that power, it's ageless also. It's just because it's wisdom. It's the height of wisdom. All right. Shall we continue? Spiritual ignorance is not to judge humans. Most humans are good, by the way. Most human beings are basically good. And that's what we need to remember too, with everything that's happening. Appeal to people's goodness, appeal to their soul and spirit, and you will touch hearts. You will reach hearts. Remember, it's not always what you say, it's how you make people feel. And when we communicate with the soul and spirit of another human, we're reaching their God self. And that's really one of the keys. And one of the benefits of prayer, it keeps us honest and humble. So it says, because you have gained mind knowledge, which is Aries, the mind. Aries holds one of the deep, deep codes of the noble masculine, the divine masculine. But it also can represent where we get trapped in the head. But it's also our power. There's so much good energy there. This is where the North Node is. Technology has advanced so fast. And now we do a lot of work here about AI and technology. It's a big part of this work and how it competes with the organic wisdom. It doesn't compete with it. It doesn't even hold a candle or a flame to it, but it competes to dampen the vision so that people, when they're choosing this path, this bifurcation, people are magnetically pulled. They're seduced into the line of technology. And what's happened is technology has advanced faster than our spiritual capacity to use that technology. So we're technology is here. The new technology, I mean, at any moment is being rolled out. The level of power contained in the new technologies and AI and the ability to know you better than you know yourself, that's already here through algorithms. But that technology, the only override frequency, we say this is the override frequency in Light Body Woman, is to have command of that force and to have healed your trauma around it. And so that's why the healing is really important. A lot of the a lot of the ignorance with some of the, mostly patriarchal leaders is just they've inverted it to the lust for power and control. This is in the wars that are happening with the technology. Those who have the power and are pressing the buttons, or should we say coding, programming, are at a level of, that's what the spiritual ignorance means. Not that all people in that field are bad, but when you realize that the heart is not fully online, the spiritual vision is not online, it's a problem because humanity hasn't evolved quickly enough to use that so it's in service of the divine feminine wisdom. So you just see where we're meant to go. A lot of beeping today. Amazing. So what keeps coming in? All right. So this is why the one way you can see it is if you have your sexual energy in your own authority, your sovereignty, because it's the force that's being seduced comes from that place. And so when you're in the state of being seduced, you can't see clearly. Okay, still on page 1. All right. We have to advance those people who are doing this work right now, and it's the work I'm doing on the etheric plane, are integrating at such a high speed. It's a race right now. And when I say meaning that I have to disappear for 3 months, because it's like what's happening right now is beyond. This is it. Like we're in this moment of the great reveal. And so that work for those who work at that level, and then you know what I mean. It's to hold the line. Okay, because you mean, okay, spiritual. Your science, politics, finance, world governance are saturated in the discordant, what we call lust frequency. Okay. At Art of the Feminine, we call this the serpents of lust, or the serpents of lust frequency. They seduce with sexual energy and materialism, hyper sexual energy and hyper materialism. But they also, I want to add, they also work in the lower astral. And so that's below your level of consciousness. We're talking subconscious mind. So there's also, that's a big part where the battle's happening. What it does is it seduces you with something in the physical world, and then it's attached to a trigger in that lower astral world, the hidden world. So they seduce with a sexual energy and materialism that has zero spiritual vision. The level of technology that is being unleashed with AI and the capacity for the lust industry is far beyond what most people understand, something that we've spoken a lot of in past videos. And it's one of the reasons that we are where we are, put it that way. So it will consume the soul power, the feminine soul power. It will activate and unleash some of the most powerful dark forces in the universe. That's what's happening right now. Is that, those days when you can feel it, you're like, oh my God, what is filling this field? That's what's happening. And that's why we call this the descent of darkness, because that darkness also, when we're talking about, we talk about the interdimensional and the archons, that's the fourth dimension. So it is coming from above. There is a descent of this archontic energy. Now, really quick about the archons, people ask sometimes, the way we speak of the archons here is that they are, there's many different ways, but I'm going to say this really quick. Vivified beings, and not ensouled beings, but vivified beings that have, they've been, let's call them ensouled, but not the great soul that we're talking about, not the Christed soul, but they're ensouled enough to where they have consciousness. So they're like thought forms and archetypes that have been created in the lower realms. And so they're void of the spiritual superpowers of the divine feminine and the goddess, but they have reign of this lower world. They rule this lower world, and they're working with higher technology than we have. And the vision they do have is that they see into us. They know our thoughts. They know our addictions. They manipulate our relationships. They sabotage our gifts. They tempt us to make the wrong choice. They tempt us to compete in the wrong way or to take energy from another in many, many different ways. That's our Archontic energy. And so part of understanding the sexual force is knowing how you run your energy and understanding what's going out from you, what's coming into you, what are you emitting, what are you receiving. And so the archons, they're the shadow side of the planetary bodies. And so they have the powers of the planets, but as the underbelly. And so they work in the zodiac. We have deep teachings in divine feminine astrology, how they work here. And they seize our creative power and work through. They put it this way: they have to work through a human body to work on in 3D. And so what they do is they find forms and vehicles of consciousness that are compatible. Okay. So what's happening right now in the programming is that when the masses become compatible, we have a mass incarnation, where, you hear, like, in all you hear conspiracies about the reptilians, or how they're walking among us. Well, I won't get into all of that right now. We have very specific teachings around that. But when I don't even want to touch myself when I say that, when I have that consciousness and I've made myself available for that kind of possession, or merging, that's exactly what happens. And there's a change in the eyes. The eyes kind of dilate and start to look different. They say the eyes are the window of the soul, and that's the absolute truth. So let's say somebody's really addicted or really on a substance where they lose their own, agency. They're not truly making their own choices, which is why we don't recommend substances here. At a certain level, we don't do anything that takes over our pineal gland, because there's a portal, and that's what happens. You can see when somebody, I spent a lot of time bartending in New York City, and I've seen it firsthand and experienced it myself, that when we go unconscious, all of a sudden, what makes us do things that we wouldn't normally do is partly that energy. So, what's happening now is unleashing that energy, and that's a kind of collective possession in the human field. The saturation of the field with discordant and distorted union codes. So that's what we're talking about. Distorted union codes, meaning I'm merging with the upper dark forces. And they are very seductive as well. I'll say an example. Let's say in celebrityism. And this is where compassion and love gets to where we have to start discerning that obviously we really wish no harm for anybody, and we appreciate all human beings are a divine spark of God, period. And everybody that's incarnated as a human, most all people have a soul. But you the most seductive and beautiful forces can be fully being run by this energy. And again, you have to be very careful because we here are not about pointing out anything ever, because all of us have the capacity for this and all of us have fallen prey to this throughout our lifetime. There, in fact, many times in love relationships, possession is very powerful when we get so mad and so feel so betrayed or deceived, we can become possessed. And it feels very powerful. In fact, I have a story. I was just writing about this, but I'm going to share this. This is turning out to be a little bit longer, but I think it's important. I'm going to go into this today. So I trained as an actor for years in various different schools. And one of the schools I was at was in the University of Washington in Seattle. And when I was there as an undergraduate, I had the opportunity to study at the graduate level with all of their faculty was amazing. And I was studying with this man who had been a Broadway director and studied and also been in big motion picture films and out of Hollywood. And he was really a quality, serious teacher. He was a master teacher. And one summer I did a workshop with him, and we had one of the things that we had to do was he gave us like 3 things that we had to do, and then everything else was like improv. It was a training, it was called The Artist Presents. It was about training artists how to use their vehicle, and so every time we met, it was something different, or I think every week throughout the summer, we had a week to work on it. And one of the exercises in the presentations was you enter the space, and then I think you had to have a couple words or you had to use your body in a couple ways, and then everything else was free. For you to improvise, and mine included that I had poetry that I had written and dance and uh yeah, let's just say poetry and dance. There's something else and I know it will come to me. That and I started out on the ground and it was very primal. And I was this is not normally how I work, but I was at that time in my life as an artist, you wanna push boundaries. And if anyone who's trained as anything, especially in acting, you do things that you wanna be able to get outside your identity and channel different beings and humans and souls through you. But what happened that day was I found out what happens when you channel in the lower elemental forces that are connected to the earth. And what happens is that they come into you and they use you. And what happened was I was flying in this I had it was music. I had music. So it was vocalizing, music, poetry, and dance. And I had never felt it like this where the forces came into me and I was flying. And this poetry was just coming through me and I felt like I was going off the ground and not touching the ground. And something took me over where it was no longer me deciding what I would say or what I would do, and it didn't feel, I don't wanna say evil, but it was primal energy of the earth, and but I started out on the ground, and I was doing poetry into the ground, and it pulled up a force from the earth, and then I pulled down a force. I know this is deep, but and then it found a home inside me, and when I finished that, nobody could speak because after everybody would present, we had a whole class on the bleachers. You're in a black box theater and everyone's on the feature, and everyone was like, No, people couldn't talk because then the teacher, the director would stand up and make notes and then talk to people and have people comment, and it took a while, and he's like, "Can anyone talk?" Everyone's like, something was in that room, and people just said, like, he gave a good critique of it because he said, you definitely hit a new level of performance," and he gave me a bunch of notes around it. I think he mentioned the town that I had come from, and he said, "You've long left this little town. You're ready for the big time." But it was a demonstration of forces, and these were like forces that weren't, they're performance forces, and these forces are used by musicians, by you hear musicians talk about them, and they're used by actors, and there's various, the ancient goddess lineages use them, and and just to mention that there's a lot of forces that were in previous lineages that were, the earth is going through an evolution, and so I'm not actually going to save that for another time to speak of this. So these are the forces, and they're very real, and that was one experience where I got to feel what it's like to have some. Now, whenever you act or even play music, and my son's a musician, and I've done a lot of work in music and even sing and vocalize, there is a force that comes into you. It's not bad. There's a divine force that channels through. That's what art is. Art, it makes us a container of union, of sacred union. In light body yoga, we call it light body artist. But this particular day hit a different realm. It hit a different realm. And these are the kinds of energies that are called forth. Just going to take a second. And then I'm shown we're meant to say I am in the seven directions. I think we're going to go right into I am, and then I will continue in a different frequency. So we're going to say I am in the seven directions. And this is the power of working with the goddess to activate the law of seven. We call it the law of 777 in light body yoga, the very particular code that we work with. But this lights the lamps. This lights the seven seals of Magdalene when we say I am in the seven directions. And I had planned to do this anyway at the beginning. Let's just take a moment for December to call these forth. And so repeating after me, like the sun, the solar feminine in the heart is emanating into your field through the diamond mudra. I am before me. I am behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. And so now just taking a deep breath in and hold it for just a moment and feel this ball of light, the golden solar feminine goddess awakening in your heart, the Sophia Logos power. And now exhaling it all out. I am, I know I am. I am, I am, I know I am. All right. That was a perfect place to say that. And we also say the Christ Sophia Logos power, which is the sacred union code in the heart that we work with in Light Body Yoga. We call the Christos Sophia code of sacred union. So this is what I'll say instead of what I was about to say. They asked me to, my guidance asked me to reverse it. When we work with the higher frequencies, we call in the true forces, the forces of nature that are connected to the Christ energy. And lower rituals call on different forces, and they're very powerful. And that's why I had no intention of telling that story, but that's just a demonstration that they exist. And anyone who performs will know something about it. But what we're doing right now. Now we have to also be compatible, like we talked about being compatible with the shadow forces. We also have to be compatible with the higher frequencies. And that is what all of this work is about, very, very powerfully. Okay. Let me see how much I can get through. This is a little bit longer. If you can't watch the whole thing, I recommend you come back and watch it because there's more good material and revelations coming. The level of technology that is being unleashed with AI and the capacity for lust industry is far beyond what most people understand. It will activate and unleash some of the most powerful dark forces in the universe. The saturation of the field with discordant and distorted union codes will be a massive flood, the great flood, the descent of darkness upon the consciousness of the human race. Again, this is Light Body Tantra work. Light Body Tantra was released for this reason at this time as well. The reason I was shown out of all the courses I could teach, I have so many, this was the one. And my guidance said this one has to be crystal clear and completely ready. And so that's why I'm doing it on starting January 22nd. It holds the most pristine and royal path of the divine feminine wisdom in the universe. And that's a big statement, but I'll stand by it because I've witnessed every single second of it being received for the past 31 years. So the shadow entities are released through the ruptures in the subterranean fields of the lower detached elemental streams. So the goal is rupturing the membrane. That is the boundary. Sexuality makes portals. Inverted sexuality tears holes in the fabric of the feminine subconscious mind, the collective subconscious mind of the human race. We are living in a distortion field that influences everyone from leaders, politicians, scientists, clergy, artists, with whispers of the demonic. I wrote this 3 weeks ago, so this is like I'm reading it for the first time, with whispers of the demonic. The worst effect is on the youth and children who are not guarded and protected in the wisdom of their parents, auric field. Their auras are severely compromised and can be programmed with the detached streams of feelings, emotions, thoughts, desires, and lower spiritual impulses. The Christic impulse is destroyed and drawn out where there is not yet wisdom. The discerning faculties of the spiritually and intuitively developed mind are absent. This dark spiritual ignorance that is cast upon humanity, like the intoxication of alcohol or substances, distorts the abilities of the soul. The spirit is not able to use the soul vehicle. The spirit, which is the Christ energy, is not able to use the soul vehicle. It's always there, but it can't operate through it. Now, just a reminder, sometimes we have to hit rock bottom and then there's a massive impulse of the Christ spirit. The spirit is not able to use the soul vehicle. Instead it is run by the dark forces and entity possession, which is very, very real. We are seeing the bleed through of these subterranean forces in everything. This is so intense. It wears very heavy on the human race. It wears on us. It traumatizes our consciousness. It's invisible and it's acting upon us. And again, this is not about conspiracies, or this is not about projecting onto this is completely about the goddess and the divine feminine wisdom that we work with. If you know the Art of the Feminine podcast, this was the whole, which the anniversary will be next week, which is going to be extra potent, the whole wisdom that was brought in. It wears very heavy. It's sad. You can see children who are, and that's what we're seeing with the 18 to 25-year-olds. Imagine that they've had nonstop exposure to this field, and people act like it's no big deal. We're just going to have all this technology. Life is going to get so great. That's not the case. The nervous system and the neuroses that are alive on our planet compared to 15 years ago, there's no denying it. That no, we are meant to have technology, and we believe in technology, we believe in science and all of it. But again, technology has way surpassed the human capacity for good judgment, and that's where the problem comes. And no judgment. Little children, zero judgment. They're open, they're innocent. The vulnerable are exploited. And if the parents are ignorant, they don't know better either. So there's no judgment. And these times are predicted. So these are prophesized times we're in. Okay, it uses technology and the entertainment industry to spread the contagions, the contagious false light narratives. They make light, they make light of the desecration of the feminine soul and laugh at her, taunting her with their politics of impure forces, using her, using the heart to extract her emotions, her sadness, her fear, her confusion. This is all welcomed. These emotions are as valuable as the high currency of lust. So what I want to say is that obviously theater is very powerful. I'm thinking Greek tragedies, I'm thinking Shakespeare, I'm thinking like even all the different genres of theater. But I'm thinking of Greek tragedy, which were big archetypes that are the archetypes within us, that pantheon of goddess energy that's alive within us. They're not all evil. So theater is not, when you hear like there's a lot of religious stuff right now, like theater is evil and this is evil. That's part of our human experience. It's part of the goddess. We can't shun it. We can't, suppressing it is as bad. So there's been periods where, like, let's say the church said, you can't dance, you can't take part in this or that. And they shun everything. They push the goddess out. So we didn't educate ourselves about it. Theater and the great Shakespeare plays are so deep with the archetypes of human consciousness. That's how we receive them. So we chant, and that's my training. It's so crazy because I can see now throughout my life, everything I was trained in was this work, because it's Venusian, and I have high placements of Venus that work through theater and dance and the arts. That is the energy that we learn from, but we have to master it. And so that's why there's a lot of artists that come to this work, because over the years I've worked with so many amazing artists. understanding how to run the codes through art, even some of the dark forces. Again, we're not ever about saying we don't want to touch it. Art is actually the vehicle for us to learn. It's our school. And so that's why we call this work the great art, which is Sagittarius, really. People can feel it. Okay, so they provide energy. So the high frequency of lust currency, they provide energy as the medium. It's a medium of travel for the subterranean forces and the spiritual ignorance to proliferate, to birth all over and multiply. It's goddess energy, so it multiplies really quick. It's fertile. People can see it, feel it, they know something is very, very wrong, but at this point, the mind itself has been hijacked, like we talked about in the beginning, and put into the hypnotic trance that feels powerless, useless, and subservient to the agenda. What is stabilizing is stripped away and replaced. What is stabilizing has been stripped away. You look at what's happening in the world right now, I could talk for 3 hours about it, really, truly. And I will be giving details of everything when I teach this course. That's what this is, looking at everything specifically. But the rug is being pulled out from underneath everywhere, and there's uprisings everywhere. The populist movement is becoming, when people, even if it's blindly, start reacting, it's for a reason. When the people start to move together, it can be steered. This is something to really understand. That energy can be harnessed. And I've spoken to that many times about how the feminine energy was harnessed through various movements in the past years, recent past years, and it's constantly it's value, it's money, it's wealth. That feminine energy is wealth. And so what is stabilizing is stripped away and replaced with betrayal, deception, and abandonment. And then it kind of becomes addiction. You get addicted to your captor. I forget what that's called, but it's when you learn to love the person who's stripping you of your power to be safe. This is one of the things I've had to work with. I'm just going to share this because I work energetically also with people who hold key positions on the planet, meaning when I work etherically, and because a lot's being worked out, it's really hard sometimes. And I sometimes have to really, I've had to learn some lessons because even if you slightly miscall it sometimes, that's one of the things about vision that you have to be able to see clearly. You don't want to miscall it either way. You don't want to over trust and you don't want to over crucify what's in your consciousness because we're either trusting and accepting or completely abandoning. And it requires a really refined sensibility. And that comes through our lessons, that comes through our initiations. We become master teachers through each step of the way. In each initiation we go through builds that true power and stability. And so that's why I can say some of the work here it's proven the test of time and the literal initiations that were required. Many have I never spoken of, but will at some time in the future. The minds are scrambled in this techno field of discordant forces, driving the mind into frequencies of obedience. The brave new world is inching its way towards us. The brave new world. You think of, I always recommend Brave New World in 1984. My son recently just reread both of those and he's like, oh my God. Yeah, we're seeing things played out, and there's some information around that as well, but this has gone on pretty long. So I think I'm at the last page. Oh, shoot. Wait. I read number 5 before I read number 4. Okay, wait. Okay, the Christic. Oh, no, I didn't. Nope, that's it. That's it. It finished on Brave New World. Okay, so I'm just going to take a moment. This is really long for one of these videos, but I haven't been here in a while. I hope you can come back if it was too much to digest. We just said a lot in this video, and again, that was written 3 weeks ago, like near Thanksgiving, when I sent out the Light Body Tantra email. I'm gonna just ask if there's anything to close out. So Sagittarius right now, the Sagittarius new moon. We're right. In fact, this is perfect because we're right at the new moon. If anybody wants to say anything, I know I've been talking. Feel free to if you have any questions. Looks like some people are still here. Oh yes, there's some people on. Very nice. I'll say this now because I just looked at the likes. Please make sure to like, follow, subscribe. It's something I rarely say, but also the likes really help the video. And that's really important. So I thank you for being here. So this is, let me just ask what is meant to be said to close this out. The truth is contagious. And although it's like walking the razor's edge right now, be careful not to judge people. Listen to what people have to say. You know, if people have information about this or that and you're attracted to it, rather than feel fearful, whether it's, leaning more towards the official narrative or if it's work coming from the spiritual realms, and then sit with it and, you know, the cognitive dissonance, the separation of the mind when things are so overwhelming, that's another battle to receive what's really happening and not bounce back because that is the high reflex right now. You can have the truth one day and then it's gone the next because this is a time when there's that battle for consciousness. So the way to build up the container to hold it is to sit every single day. Meditation is very, very big here. I mean, obviously, in my work is probably overload meditation, but if you can sit with yourself every day, sit with love, whatever you're drawn to. I find music right now is so big, and I've been listening to. One of you told me about the chanting music last time. Patrick Lenk, love him, and one of you told me about. It was in when we talked about prayer. I really, right now, I'm really on the path of hearing that kind of Gregorian chant. It's really heart opening for me, and, it's also connected to a lineage that I grew up in and that I'm doing some work in right now, but that kind of majestic music, that soul music, and it's like the cathedral. We used to talk about this a lot. The cathedral of the soul that is within you becomes resonant with that sound current, and it begins to open. We call that's your consciousness that is growing when you commit to this work. And so, see if there's anything else. So, at the Sagittarius new moon that's happening right now, Mars is conjunct the great attractor. If you've ever not, if you don't know what the great attractor is, this mass of mass and energy, it's unexplainable. From what I was reading up on what the latest is. We cannot fully define it or understand it, but it's at 14 degrees Sagittarius. And so Mars is at 13 today. So Mars force, this is what I wanted to say today. Mars is at the great attractor. The great attractor is hyper energy and bringing energy into the system. And when you read, I think I closed out that page. I had a page about it. It was purple. I think it was called Galactic Mystic or something like that. But if you read about the great attractor, it's big. I happen to have my Mars, my natal Mars, on the great attractor. And I knew there was something up with my Mars from the time I was born. My Mars is also retrograde in Sagittarius, right sitting on the great attractor, which is about as bad as having my sun on Algol, which is Lilith in Taurus, and it's said to be the most evil point in the whole zodiac. So I came in to battle some of these things. The Mars force, the masculine force, the patriarchy, and then to rewrite Lilith, which is a big part of our work here. So also, I'm just doing this from memory at the new moon. So the new moon is nearly conjunct the galactic center. This is why it's at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. The moon and the sun starting a new cycle of Sagittarian energy we'll be at, in just about an hour and a half, we'll be at near the galactic core. It's at 20, the galactic core is at 27. That's not a tight conjunction, but it's amplifying that part of the zodiac. And what else is there? Oh, a lot of planets are direct now. So we're getting ready to, no, actually, Mercury goes retrograde tomorrow. For 3 weeks, it will be retrograde over the holidays. So be very patient and loving to your family. That's the other thing I want to say. We'll talk about this next week about the holidays at solstice on December 19th when we meet. Just be about love. If you don't have to argue, don't. If something needs to be said, take it on with wisdom. But, and I'm spending the holidays this year. I'm so excited with my entire family. I have a huge family. And I'm so excited. And we have people from every part of the planet in our family, all different religions, even represented from what's happening in the Middle East right now, right at my dinner table will be people from both sides. So the holidays are sacred, sacred goddess ritual. At the holidays, we'll talk about this and solstice. Be in your Christed heart. Be in your Christ Sophia. Appreciate the love in your life, even if it's a pet or a neighbor. The more love you can fill up on, the more the Christ light starts to shine. We need each other. We need community, and we need our power. We just talked about a lot of things that seem very negative. And, I talked about some of the esoteric and the metaphysical things, which we don't always touch on lately, but we went there and we talked about it. It's really important. And I also wanted to give you an idea what's coming with Light Body Tantra. But love is so important. And again, you may be even loving people that you feel are not in the right frequency, especially addiction right now. So many families are traumatized. I've had so many emails recently about people who have a son or a daughter who has kind of fallen by the wayside. I can't even tell you how much my heart, when I hear that, because I have such a special relationship with my own son. He's been raised in a pretty elevated frequency here at Art of the Feminine. And so I'm able to see the benefit of that and the deep love, but the vulnerability we are as parents, because we love so deeply. And whenever I hear of someone having a hard time with a child that's kind of lost, I stop. That is the one thing that makes me stop and drop and pray. Meaning, when I hear that, everything stops. If I hear that a mother and child or a father and child are aching because of the relationship, or that something's happened to their child, I stop. And that's what's happening right now. As you know, the world is on fire. It's been really, really painful for us to see the levels of this energy that's traumatizing innocent life and children right now. So we pray for that. That's our prayer. That all innocent life and all life rise up into the new energy of this new earth that we're creating. So many strong people, though, are there and know people have breakthroughs in times like this, and they can see. And so I'm shown a lot of spiritual light is awakening in the Middle East right now, and we pray for that. Let's see what else is with the planets. The main thing I wanted to say was Mars. So two planets in Sagittarius, Mars at the Great Attractor. The new moon, Venus, is in Scorpio, opposite Jupiter. Jupiter will be going direct soon, thank God, in Taurus. Jupiter and Uranus are still retrograde in Taurus. When Jupiter, by the way, Jupiter right now is retrograde at the new moon in Taurus. When Jupiter kicks in and goes direct, it's someday early in January, everything's going to change, because Taurus is the planet and Jupiter's been going backwards. Mercury, though, is going retrograde for 3 weeks, but Jupiter is going to be a key player, and then it's going to meet with Uranus, and that's the big moment. Let me see, what else do I see in the zodiac? If there's anything else I want to mention, I'm going to look really quick if there was any big ones. I did write down some notes, so just one moment. Oh, here it is. Okay. Oh, wait. I think Eris is conjunct the North Node. Oh, here it is. Okay. These were the planets. I wrote them. Saturn at Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. Oh, Mercury retrograde will square Neptune in Pisces. That's going to be a moment. Look for that moment. Mercury's going to retrograde back into Sagittarius and square Neptune exact. That's a moment because it will be retrograde and squaring Neptune. We can see some really big things with communication, with technology happening. Lilith is in Leo right now, Venus in Scorpio. I think we're good. I think I'll leave it with that. Yeah. All right. I'm going to take a second and look down and see. So good to see you. So good to see you, Shay. All right. Okay. I'm going to take a look. If anybody has a question, I'll stay on for another minute. We haven't done a live stream this long in a while. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lotus. Thank you. I bow to you. Thank you. Yeah. Light Body Tantra too. Okay. Patricia, it's called Stockholm Syndrome. Exactly. Yes. Alien, I always stumble on your talks at the perfect time. It's so bizarre. Island, thank you. Where are you all tuning in from? If you want to tell me, I'll stay on for another moment. Okay, so the deadline to enroll, go to Instagram and look at the links in Linktree, Art of the Feminine, Shannon Port, or underneath this video. It's the Light Body Tantra registration, the pay button is on the very same. I haven't had a chance to make a new one. It says Friday, it says Black Friday special, but I'm bringing that special out for this particular week up until Christmas. And so even though it says Black Friday special, you can pay at that link and that's how you register. And then you will get an email from me confirming that all is good. And it's at the low, low price. So price is going to go back up to 555, then 777, and then it will be back at 11 on my website because it's really, really the holy of holies and the crown jewel of Light Body Woman. From Portugal, so nice to have Portugal, very ancient goddess energy in Portugal. Lisa Petrucci, so good to see you. How do you see Venus in Scorpio with the sexual energy? It naturally connotates or discomfort potential. So I meant the year. Oh, the year-long study. Okay, I'll answer that, Lisa. I'm going to say this. Divine Feminine Wisdom School. She's doing, Lindsay does the calls, and she's going to run a 2024 special. If you enter the year-long program before, I think she said January. I think we decided on January 14th as the cutoff to enter the school. Now, the school is much bigger commitment. If you enter the school, you automatically are enrolled in Light Body Tantra. There's no charge for it, and other things that come up. I do lectures every month. You're automatically enrolled in that. So between now, December 12th, and you have 1 month to make. The school's a bigger commitment, but it's unbelievable. I'm so proud of it, and both links are underneath this. Okay, I meant the year. Okay, Lisa. So Scorpio and Venus. Venus and Scorpio is a lot like Lilith. Lilith behaves like Venus when she's in the sign of Scorpio, behaves more like Lilith, and she acts. She's very fierce, very possessive. She can be a little too possessive, but Venus and Scorpio types can be very loyal, meaning if they love you, they're gonna love you. And so that's that. Let me see what else. Venus and Scorpio, because Venus is in Scorpio right now, and it's gonna be in Scorpio. Let's see if there's any big tell of what's happening at the Sagittarius new moon with the energies. Mercury going retrograde. It's affecting the patriarchy a lot. That's what's happening. Venus and Scorpio, it can take on the shadow body of Lilith, but we can use her the right way for deep creativity in the underworld, deep, profound loyalty, deep possessiveness, but like a good kind of possessiveness. These days, a lot of people, I was just talking to somebody about this. It's important that we have loyalty to something. What's happened in this generation with the younger kids, they don't have loyalty to anything. It's good to have discernment, of course, but pick something to use your loyalty towards, whether it's your child or whether it's an a work of art you're creating, or something you're making, or a relationship. Because loyalty requires unconditional love. That doesn't mean we throw wisdom out the window, but loyalty, if you don't have any loyalties, if you just go whichever way the wind blows, you'll be taken by the energies that are out there. Because double speak and switching sides is constant. I say this, but at the same time, I say this. This is what we see in politics. Wait a minute, I'm saying I believe in this and I support this, but I'm doing this, and this undermines this totally. In fact, you can't have these two in the same room together. That's what's happening. So know what you're loyal to spiritually. And the best loyalty is to your own heart and the building of your own consciousness. Use Venus for love, for creativity. And I know you're very, very creative. So you're using it the proper way. And to get vision in the underworld, because Scorpio is Hades and it's Pluto. It's really powerful. All right. Does anybody else? I'm just going to quickly go through this. Say your prayers. I always, that's so good to hear. Brianne, thank you. It's great to see you too. I am Love Light. So good to see you. Aline, I've never seen so many ad interruptions. That's interesting. That's just YouTube. They keep sending me notifications saying they're sending an ad, and it's curious always when the times they come. So I will take that off. Ends all wars, balancing our Aries North Node. Yes, by balancing it with Libra. Okay, thank you for saying that. To balance the Aries North Node, we find the qualities of Venus in Libra: equilibrium, balance, harmony, the scales, art. Libra, we see Libra as art with a capital A, creative. And Libra also is also relationships. It's the seventh house. Yeah, and so that's what we're doing here. We are working with Venus to balance those energies. And take. Oh, Kath, it's so nice to see you. Oh, I'm so glad you could make it. Kelly, Tina, Quantum Fractal, Namaste from planet Earth. Yes, Tina sounds excellent. Okay, all right, Neil, Trisha, and Sophia, Tina. Okay, all right, everyone. It was so good to have you. It looks like we're gonna just tune out now. I ask that all of this energy be held in the highest, that all words spoken, because there was some very strong frequencies brought in and some knowledge of the higher realms, the higher light realms. We ask that this is respected and that it's held in the container that is protected with wisdom, the guardians of wisdom. And that if there's anything that can serve you or seed your consciousness right now, and plant deeply and begin to grow into the tree that bears fruit, may it be so. If there's anything that you're not meant to receive of this or that needs clarification, may it be clarified for you through your own I am, which we called in, your own guidance and sovereign higher self. And if there's anything that just can be let go, we ask that it's simply and easily released. I call upon the goddess to be with us in this next week as we make our way to the radiant darkness of the solstice next Tuesday on the 19th. May blessings be in all of our lives, in our homes during this holiday season. May we be guided by the true inner Christ light. May the wisdom of the goddess be our radiant body and field of intelligence and divine love that surrounds us and informs us of all that we do. And so I'm closing out for today with Namaste. So be it, so it is. It's done. Thank you so much. I will see you next week. And a lot of exciting things. I hope to see many more of you joining me also in January.